Chinese cars made in Germany. Chinese automakers want to take on the European market by producing cars in the continent's biggest car-making country. China's BYD, the world's largest electric vehicle manufacturer, is reportedly in talks with Ford about buying its plant in southwestern Germany. The state-owned SAIC, which has a joint venture with Volkswagen in China, is also seeking a production site here. High wages and energy costs aren't stopping Chinese investors, and neither are trade tensions between the EU and China. Now, joining us with more is MERICS analyst Gregor Sebastian. How could plans by Chinese car makers to set up operations in Germany affect EU-China trade tensions?
Hi, Chiponda. Well, first of all, as many viewers might be aware, in recent years and months especially, the EU-China trade relationship has become increasingly unbalanced. So what we mean by that is that our imports have steadily increased in recent years, but our exports to China are actually stagnating, and in some sectors are actually also going down. So if we see more investment by Chinese car makers in Germany, that could help to some extent ease these trade tensions, because that would then mean that China is potentially sending us less of these high-end goods like electric vehicles, but rather producing them here locally. So that could actually be beneficial for EU-China trade tensions.
All right, so that could help ease trade tensions by, of course, shifting production to Germany. And of course, maybe that would also have a reputational impact for Chinese brands here in Germany and in Europe. Would that help them in any way?
Oh yeah, it would be a massive sign of strength for them. So currently, many consumers in Europe are still quite wary about Chinese vehicles, right? At the moment, what Chinese brands are trying to do is that they enter into cooperation with car rental or sharing companies like Sixt, so that consumers can actually test their products first. But they really try to avoid this image as like low-end budget vehicles that they still have in the mind of many consumers. And by producing their vehicles here in Germany and thus also competing directly with Audi, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, competing in one of the toughest car markets in the world, that would really send a signal both to European consumers that, hey, Chinese brands can really make it here, but it would also actually reverberate and also send a signal back home to Chinese consumers and show that actually, you know what, our producers can make it in one of the toughest markets in the world.
Gregor, you mentioned their electric vehicles, for instance. That could potentially mean that Chinese firms, automakers, would benefit from state subsidies in Germany. Now, just how would that affect, the politics in Germany when it comes to Chinese firms receiving state subsidies?
Yeah, well, let me first say it would kind of put Chinese and German companies on a level playing field to some degree, because German companies in China have long benefited from subsidies from the Chinese government, right? Tax cuts, additional subsidies for production or R&D. So in a way, this would actually put them on a level playing field. However, I think it would really reignite the debate about China and our relationship with China here in Germany. If we see that Chinese car makers are being subsidized to produce here and also compete with our car makers at a time when the German government, which has just released its China strategy a month ago and is really doubling down on de-risking and diversification away from China, that would really send mixed signals. But on the other hand, many Bundesländer and also other European member countries, they really want to attract more investment, right? Because ultimately, if Chinese car makers produce here, this is also creating new jobs, right? So there is a certain incentive to subsidize them, but it could also really heat up the debate here in Germany about what sort of relationship we want to have with China going forward.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a very tough balancing act. So Gregor Sebastian from MERICS there. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.